Hi, I'm Harrison Howard, host of the Thread podcast. Today I'm joined by Dr. Spencer Erickson, owner and chiropractor at Timpview Chiropractic. This episode is amazing for anyone interested in what it's like to start a small business in the medical space. I found this conversation very captivating, and he has such a unique perspective on what it's like to run a business. Hope you guys enjoy listening to this episode. Welcome back to the Thread podcast, where we uncover the real wins and real struggles of entrepreneurs and business masterminds across the country. I'm Harrison Howard, your host, and today I'm joined by Dr. Spencer Erickson, chiropractor and founder of Timpview Chiropractic. Dr. Erickson has been practicing for 21 years, and he is currently the president of Utah Chiropractic Physicians Association, where he has held that position for 2 years, going on 3 years. Dr. Erickson, it's great to have you on the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So, Dr. Erickson, you've been in the medical space for some time. Have you always owned your practice, and what was your goal from the beginning?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I've not always owned my practice. I had I came out of school a little bewildered. I didn't really know what was going on. One thing that I really regret when I got out of school is I didn't have much of a plan. So I hit the ground really hard, and it was not running. And so I came out and I floundered a little bit. And so it took me a little bit of experience to learn, what a practice was, how to run a practice, how to be successful, all that stuff. I have wisdom that I can offer new people now, but one thing that I really regret is I didn't do the research that I needed to while I was in school to be able to hit the ground running and be successful right off the bat.
Okay. Gotcha. And then how did you get into that? How did you transition into that space? Obviously, you have a practice that's been going for some time now. What did that look like from your floundering state right out of
So when I first
chiropractic
graduated,
school?
I ended up at home like a lot of people as 28 years old and single.
Okay.
I hadn't met my wife yet. And so I ended up at home and just looking for jobs, looking for opportunities, I guess. There are a few different ways you can move as a chiropractor. You can go directly into practice for yourself. You can work with other chiropractors or under them as an associate. You can do a shared space arrangement. There are lots of partnerships, lots of ways to do it. So where I ended up landing was a couple hours away in Ogden, Utah, and about 90 minutes, I guess, from my folks' house. And I entered a shared space arrangement where a doc let me use some of his space, and he imparted some of his wisdom to me while I tried to get going in a brand new area. And I quickly learned I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to retain. I didn't know how to teach or educate patients. I didn't know anything. And so that lasted a little while, but it didn't last very long. I ended up meeting my wife there, however. We met and hit it off really well, and we're married shortly after we met. But I ended up failing in that business, and I ended up relying a lot on my wife's income. She was a school teacher, and
Okay.
so she was able to find a job, and I was not able to bring a paycheck in, and so I went for a little while without any work. Ultimately, after a lot of searching and too much time, it's too much time. But I ended up getting a job as an associate doctor, but that was up in Idaho. So we ended up moving up to Idaho, and one of the things that my inability to provide at first, one of the problems that created is I had to move up to a different state while my wife stayed in Utah. And so
Okay.
while we were newlyweds, we lived 4 hours apart. And that was a really, really difficult time. And, but I had 2 years up there. We did that for about 4 months before she was able to move up. We bought our first house in Idaho and things were really good. I actually worked at that office for a couple of years and I learned a lot. I learned what I'm good at, which is I'm really good at adjusting. I learned that I'm actually pretty good at patient education. I learned how to run at least the nuts and bolts of a business. And I felt like I got a pretty good handle on things while I was up there. If you want to hear a continuation of the story, after that 2 years, I was contacted by a friend of mine from school that I was pretty good friends with, and his practice down in Salt Lake. So again, back in Utah, I was floundering, but he had pretty good numbers going, and so we came down. And so I worked with him for a little while, and I found out that it was not just floundering, it was failing, and it was on its way under.
Wow.
My wife and I were it was a difficult situation, and I don't want to disparage the doc that I came down to work with as a partner. But it turned into a situation where we felt pretty taken advantage of, and it was not a really great situation for us to flourish in. And so I ended up leaving that practice. Um, Man, the failures just start stacking up you start it. Just you
As
kind of get
they
in the
do
habit of
before the
failure.
success comes. Yeah, as they do.
I started a new practice in Pleasant Grove, so a little bit further south. And right about that time, we were hitting some pretty heavy financial times. I had credit card debt since I wasn't making any money really with this second venture. We ended up looking at doing a bankruptcy, and I had just leased an office space in Pleasant Grove that I was really hopeful about, and I got real fearful. And when we decided to declare bankruptcy, I included that space in the bankruptcy. I just gotten a sign for it. I just painted it. We were real hopeful for it. I was like,
Yeah,
oh no,
goodness
what if I
gracious.
fail again? And so we ended up including that, and that's another regret of mine is just folding, just not even having faith in myself. I ended up at that point. It's getting to be a long story. I ended up at that point, though, doing house calls. I learned a technique that does allergy elimination. So I used to go around to people's houses
Wow.
and, yeah, you just work with them, work with the family. I had a flat rate, one person versus the family, and I'd jump around. I was kind of busy, drive around here and there. So I
How
did
far
that.
along were you in your career whenever
This
you
is like
declared
4 years.
bankruptcy? Okay, 4 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
4 years,
Yeah.
three to
Keep
four
going,
years.
sorry.
And so, yeah, I was doing house calls about then when I was doing allergy elimination. And finally, I decided that this is not going to feed my family. This is not, it's not sustainable. It's not scalable. I need to have people come to me instead of me drive to everybody. And so I started, uh, really getting down to it and trying to find how do I how do I create something out of this education that I have and the skills that I have. And so I applied to work as an associate doc again for a successful chiropractor in Sandy, Utah. So here we're kind of staying local at least. And I worked. He took me on. He doesn't usually take anyone but brand new graduates, and I'd been out for a few years, and so I was able to talk him into that, which is nice. But I worked for them for 3 or 4 months, and he's a very good chiropractor, but he's kind of a tough boss. And it is what it is. Uh, and it turns out that we both we left the arrangement pretty amicably, but it was time to part just after 3 or 4 months. I think I did really well. I learned a lot. He taught me a lot, but it just wasn't the fit that either of us were looking for long term. And so I left that, and I at that point was talking to my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, who had just gotten out of school with a business degree. And I said, "Hey, I feel really good about asking you to partner with me and starting this office. You run everything up front, and I'll do everything in the back." And so we had our percentages arranged, and we went in business together. And he was really, really good. He was really helpful. I'd gotten some good skills, and like I said, I'd realized the things that I was good at, so I was able to lean into those things and just and really get even better at them and apply those to become successful. We were the first chiropractors in Utah to use Groupon, for example, if you remember Groupon all those years ago. But because we took off basically from a massage model, massage boxes. I don't know if you remember those scattered around all over
Uh-huh.
the place. But we shifted to a Groupon model where we were able to come in, have people come in, take X-rays of them, get their massage. Obviously that was a free massage, and then if they needed help, we could convert a lot of them to active chiropractic care, which is very helpful for them. But that went really, really well. He and I ended up parting ways a few years into it. He decided that he didn't want to be a part of the practice. When I decided to get some coaching, he disagreed with some of those things, which is totally fine. And he gave me a very reasonable offer to buy him out. And
Okay.
so I've been running the practice on my own for 11, 12 years now. But man, what a huge help to have somebody that I could lean on, and he could lean on me to initially grow the business. And really, we were in the black in the second month. We didn't have to borrow very much. He negotiated our lease really, really well. So, there've been growing pains, of course, but, sorry, the story gets really long, but, we just kind of leaning into what we're good at and learning and growing and expanding as much as I can in my profession.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious to know. So this is kind of a foreign industry for me, obviously. I'm not a chiropractor, nor am I in the age group that probably sees chiropractors mostly. I'm curious. I know in a lot of other healthcare subspecialties, there's kind of this corporatization that's happened with a lot of doctor positions. For instance, physicians will go work for an Intermountain Healthcare as opposed to going out and starting their own practice. I'm curious, is that the same with chiropractors, or are most of them private practices?
Well, there are a few different ways to apply it. It's really difficult as a chiropractor to say, I'm going to go work for an insurance group because we
Okay,
don't have hospitals. We don't have hospital rights and that kind of stuff. And so we don't have access to a lot of that to begin with. Plus, the paradigm is just really different. We're very natural and holistic in our approach versus the allopathic route where, it's going to be drugs, it's going to be surgery, it's going to be physical,
for sure.
those kinds of things. Those are the answers to a lot of the questions over there. And so it's a much different practice model. There are interdisciplinary practices where either medical doctors will hire chiropractors and physical therapists, or physical therapists will hire chiropractors and medical doctors, or chiropractors will hire medical doctors and or physical therapists. And so
Okay,
there are interdisciplinary practices that exist, and sometimes those do scale to multiple locations. I've heard of some that are very successful. I wouldn't say they're the rule, they're much more the exception. You also have something like the Joint, which is a franchise chiropractic where you have lots of different locations of the Joint. They have flat fees. They've got, you buy cheap packages. You just go in and get adjusted however you need, whenever you need to. And there are a couple of types like that. Utah really only has the Joint for
okay.
those kinds of franchises, but that's probably the extent to where most places are going to go with that.
For a beginning, like, pre-med kid at college who's looking into going to this practice, should they anticipate having to start their own practice at some point, or finding a doctor who is and then just pairing with them?
It really depends on what their goals are. Most of the time, I would recommend if they come out, they don't really know how to run a business. They're not really great at adjusting yet. They don't have their skills really down, and their communication, that kind of stuff. Then just go work for another doctor. There are
Okay.
lots of associate opportunities out there. I've had an associate before. Didn't work out real well. They sometimes don't, but there are a lot of different opportunities. But there are some young docs that come out and they're just ready to hit it and just started are hugely, hugely successful.
Wow. That's
Yeah, just
awesome.
depends on the goals.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. So I'm curious, Dr. Erickson, you've been in business for quite a while. What do you feel is the greatest challenge you've faced during your time running the practice by yourself?
It really has just, well, oh, that's a good question. I think what really comes to mind is just maintenance of, continually building the practice. The maintenance of having the same number or more people come in consistently. So that marketing effort, the patient education, the conversion to treatment plans, that sounds like a negative thing, but it's not because this is a service industry. We're trying to
Of
provide a
course.
service for people, and
Of
so there
course.
there are treatment plans that come along with that. And so the largest challenges, honestly, is going to be dependent on the person. Generally speaking, across the board, uh, most offices, including medical offices, will just be like, "All right, where are my new people?
Okay.
I need a consistent infusion of new patients into the practice so that we can get those billable codes done and that kind of stuff." Um, Sometimes though, people will be really good at that and they won't be able to hold on to them where their communication isn't right and it's not on point and they don't connect with the patients very well or they're cold. So it's going to be a little bit different, but generally speaking, it's going to be new patient acquisition.
Patient acquisition. Okay. And where do most of your new patients come from?
Honestly, it's Google.
Really?
I could brag and say most of my patients are referrals. I do get a fair number of referrals, but
Okay.
when I sit down and with a new patient, say, "Hey, how'd you hear about me?" "Oh, I saw you on Google.
They just look you up online.
Close to
Wow.
where ever close to where I work. You had good reviews, and I found you on Google." And that's really kind of what it comes down to.
I wish it was that way with every other doctor specialist out
Yeah.
there. Tell your gastroenterologist you looked him up on Google, and I wonder what he'd say. Wow, that's incredible. Cool. Well, then, as far we'll jump ship a little bit. As far as team building, obviously this practice was kind of in place. You came in there, inserted yourself in, and then you've had 10, 12, 15 years. That's plenty of time for a lot of turnover. I'm curious, how do you build and maintain your teams effectively in your practice?
So I have to hire people that I like.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of really great people that work for me right now. These ladies that work for me are awesome. Um, my most successful hires are people that I knew prior to wanting them to work for me.
Okay.
I had one of my old employees come in yesterday just to get adjusted. She's working and she's a nurse now. That was always her dream, and so she went in. And she's an ER nurse, so she came to get adjusted, and we were talking about it. And I said, I remember when I hired you. I sat you down. She became a patient, came in, and I sat her down. I said, I'm losing one of my people, and I really like you, and I'd like you to come work for me. So I really like being here. And so, we already had a relationship, and I already felt like I knew her and I trusted her. And so that was really easy. Our very first employee, you were asking this, just a few minutes ago. It was really interesting because my brother-in-law, he looked at things much differently than I do. That's a nice thing about having two heads, that you can put together. Since we were doing massages, as part of our promotions, he just hired a massage therapist, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to have you run the front desk. You're going to be the chiropractic assistant. We're going to pay you hourly, and then when people have massages scheduled, then I'm going to, he is going to take over all the front desk responsibilities and do all that kind of stuff. But when massages come in, we're already paying her. She's just on hourly, and so she's doing massages. And as she gets busier and busier, then we can backfill with another employee." As those responsibilities need to be filled again. And I thought that was the smartest thing. Because typically hiring massage therapists, they're gonna be charging for, they're gonna charge $45 an hour for 60-minute that we charge $60 for. And so massages aren't usually profitable for chiropractic offices if they're paying massage therapists appropriately. Massages usually are, they're either to get people in or to keep people happy while they're there. So it was a stroke of genius on his part. We found a really great young lady that worked for us for a few years, and she was just awesome. And then after that is like, all right, we got to start hiring people. So how do we find somebody? And it kind of comes down to, we put it out on Facebook. I still do that. Not because Facebook isn't as big, especially with the young people. But back in the day, we put it out on Facebook and say, "Hey, who do you know that's looking for a job?" And then we'd look here and there. Or I'd just go, I'd go out to a restaurant, and if our server was really awesome, I'd be like, "Hey, how much money do you make? What do you they feel about chiropractic?"
Slide him a
And
extra
so,
tip and get him to come
yeah,
interview.
just poach them and
I
just
like
have them
that.
come work for me instead. And I've done that a few times. One of the ladies that is working for me now, the young lady, she goes to my church congregation, my ward, and she gave a talk one time a few years ago when she was still in high school. And I was like, I really like her. Her personality is really, really cool. And turns out a couple of years later, when she was, in need of a job and I was in need of an employee, it just, things just kind of came together. And I said, "Hey, why don't you come down to the office and see what you think of the vibe, and see if this is a place that you might be happy working." And we've gotten along just really, really well. And she's done awesome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then bringing those new employees to your practice, how do you get them well versed in the culture that you have there? Is that something that they just come and watch and see, or how
Yeah.
does that
So
work?
yeah, and cultures, I think is an important word. If we because my culture is different than any other office, right?
Of
Just
course.
inherently. And so if we're lighthearted and fun and loving and that kind of stuff, we need somebody who's like that. We don't need somebody who's real stern and can't smile very easily and can't pick up babies. We see a lot of babies, and so yeah, if they don't feel like they're a good fit immediately, then we're not going to hire them, first of all. But it, really, we want to find a personality and somebody that we feel like can learn, is open to learning, and then it's just the training. It's just, all right, this is what the front desk looks like. This is what the back office looks like. So if we put you at seat one, this is what you're going to be doing. Can you handle this? Can you handle learning a software? Most kids are really savvy, so I don't worry so much about the software stuff. But also, are you able to say, "Hey, this is going to be, for instance, this is going to be $1,000. How do you want to take care of that? Some people can't, that's too much
Sure.
confrontation for them to tolerate. And so if you don't have a high confrontational tolerance at the front desk, then it's just not a good fit. And that's totally fine. They can go work at Gap, or something like that where they'll be happier. And so, and that's what we want. We want employees to be happy. When employees become unhappy, then I will help them find a job where they are happier.
I don't think you've seen my shopping bills at Gap, but that's okay. Yeah, I love the idea of finding people
$1,000 bucks.
who yeah, no, I hope, no, I never hope so much at Gap. Yeah, but I love the idea of finding those personalities because I mean, people live their whole lives and they've had a lifetime of building a personality, building a face, building the joy and the happiness that they share and learning how to portray that to others. And I think, a chiropractic office probably isn't the place to necessarily teach how to do that. You've probably got bigger things on your plate. So,
Yeah. And we need to honor who they are.
of course, of course.
And if if we're honoring who they are and they're honoring who we are, then the energy just goes up.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, we'll jump over to a different topic real quick. I'm curious, Dr. Erickson, how has technology changed the chiropractic space over the last 10 to 15 years that you've seen? And then how has it changed your office individually?
Oh, well, I'm very hands-on. And so I don't like relying on a lot of technology for adjusting. There are
Of
offices
course.
that do. They have adjusting tools and that kind of stuff, which is cool. And I've dabbled in that a little bit. But really, it's about running the business as far as technology goes. So having the right software, being able to be efficient. Oh, efficiency. I love efficiency. If I'm able to be efficient and get patients in and out, then I can let them know that I honor their time, that I appreciate
Okay.
them. I'm not going to take a lot of their time unnecessarily. And I need to be able to do that with systems. And one way that we are able to do that with systems is the technology that we have. And so the way that I run it is we have a little card that represents each patient. It's got the patient's name on it. When the patient comes in, we put them on an intersegmental traction table, a little roller table for a couple of minutes, like a massage table. It's kind of nice. And they put the card in my door. And so all I have to do to see who is next in my office is I just look at the card in my door. The name is on it. So I know their name right off the bat and I can swipe their card. It's got a little magnetic stripe on it and it pulls up their chart
Wow.
just by doing that. And so if I have 5, 10 people in the office, then I just need to look at the one card in front of me. And that's the only person that I need to focus on. And I know those other cards are back there and I'm going to know who all those are in their own time. And
Okay.
so that technology allows me to just be present with the one person that's in front of me, take care of them to the best of my ability, get them all taken care of, move them out to the front desk so they can reschedule if they're not already done, and then I'm able to get on with the next person. And so I don't have people stacking up in the waiting room waiting for me to adjust them for very long, at least if I'm efficient in what I'm doing. And that efficiency allows the office to not only be busy and energetic, but I don't have a lot of frowning people because they're not sitting around all day waiting for me to get to them because I don't have good systems.
Yeah, mission accomplished. That's awesome. So are these are like it's like a credit card that the
Yeah, it looks
patient
like a credit card.
carries. Does the patient hold on to that or do you
No,
guys?
no, I don't like the patient to have to do anything. They're not responsible for anything in my office except showing up. And so they come in the door. My girls know who they are. We have to, we want to know our people and we want them to
For
know that
sure.
we know them. So, we see them on the schedule, of course. But when they come in the door, they grab their card. Hey, Jen, come on back. Let's put you on traction. They put the card in my door while they're on traction, and then they're off doing other things. And so the patient's taken care of. And then when the patient's done, they're back there waiting for them and bringing them up to my office. Say, all right, Jen, let's get you taken care of. Come on in, swipe the card. I know exactly how I'm going to adjust them because that's what I established right on day 1, day 2. And then, like I said, take care of them and get them on with their day. And then I'm able to take care of the next person.
Wow, that's inspiring. That's very innovative. I like that. Kind of along those same lines, has AI changed the chiropractic space at all yet? Has it penetrated into there yet? Have you seen?
Well, mostly it's going to be in like the websites. It's going to be in marketing,
Okay.
Google searches, that kind of stuff. We're starting to see it penetrate um, into the SEO space now, I guess more and more, which I'm
Okay.
just learning about. I'm not an early adopter of that kind of stuff.
For
I don't
sure.
want AI right all of my when I speak. in front of people, it's always me. I'll run it through to make sure that there are no grammatical errors and that kind of stuff. But I don't generally like AI writing stuff for me unless it's going to be like a blog post and that kind of stuff. But even then, SEO does not like AI generated blog posts. It'll
Of course,
flag.
of course.
And so, it's one of those things. It's a double-edged sword. But we are able to take advantage of it. I'm getting my website redesigned right now.
Okay.
That's going to be optimized for AI searches, which I guess is a new innovation. And so I wanted to be the earliest adopter of that. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, of
Get
course, of
money,
course.
because I do want to be on the forefront of getting new patients.
Thanks for sharing. So we'll just close with one question here. I'm curious, where do you see your business going in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you have goals, aspirations? What does that look like?
Yeah, I do have goals and aspirations. I think that we should always be in an area, a phase of growth, where if we're not where we want to be or expect it to be, then we need to reevaluate and look forward. So I really I want to about double my practice, and then I want to start bringing on chiropractors working for me. I love what I do. I love being hands on. I love being face to face with people. I love everything about it for the most part. But I'm also getting to a point where, sometimes I go home and my wrists are sore, my shoulders are sore, that kind of, it's very physical. I'm not a big guy. And I'm starting to age a little bit, and I hate to admit it. So yeah, I want to be able to enlarge my team. I want my office to be making money for me when I'm not even here. And one way that I can do that is by hiring somebody to come and work for me to take care of the people that I care about. And so, yeah, I want to double my practice. So, even right now I'm taking more insurances, and we're revisiting our website, like I said, and I'm getting a new practice management software because the one I have is just years and years old. And I want to take advantage of some of the newer technologies that are out there. Um, all kinds of new things that are happening. And so I'm always trying to, overtake the old with the new and implement whatever I need to so that I can feel like I'm making that progress. And so as far as goals, yeah, I'd love to have a couple docs working for me in 5 years. And I get
Okay.
to be here because I just love it. And then, when I go out of town, when I'm able to take my family out of town, then business doesn't shut down. I don't have to worry about my systems falling apart or things like that. Eventually I do want to be able to retire, even though I probably don't ever really actually want to retire. I
Okay.
really, really love
Yeah.
what I do. So I don't know
So
if that answers your question very
it
completely.
does. It does. I have a follow-up question. So I'll try to articulate this well. It's not in my script. I'm curious, a lot of business owners get caught in the day-to-day minutia of making sure their business stays afloat. And then whenever we introduce these goals to grow and to progress as a business, like scaling wise, um, oftentimes it can be difficult to determine where to put your eggs in which basket as far as growing or maintaining. With your projections looking forward and your predictions, where do you see the majority of the effort coming from to grow your practice? Is that coming from free time that you have or that you need to create, or what does that look like?
I think it comes in preparation.
Okay.
As I, become in network with more insurance companies, that's going to open a whole field of people that I didn't have access to before. And that doesn't ever close. And so
Okay.
if I'm able to do that and then open in with another insurance company and so on, if I bring doctors on who are willing to go out and do like screenings, go to the gym and, talk to people face to face and say, oh man, why don't you come and visit us? Let's take x-rays. Um, we have avenues that we can continually tap into that we don't ever have to shut down, if that makes sense.
That does.
As we and like I said, I'm trying to sow seeds right now that are gonna bear fruit for years to come, like being an early adopter in the AI um, optimization wave. So if we're able to make decisions right now that's going to bear fruit for many years, then hopefully, as new and improved technologies come about, I can also incorporate those things, and then the field just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So
Okay.
that's kind of the expectation. Where I put my basket, my eggs. When I'm standing in front of patients, all of my attention's on them. But if there are no patients in my office, then my attention's got to be on how do I get patients in my office, right? How do I get somebody in front of
For
me so
sure.
I'm not doing this? I'm not standing here by myself, at work, not working.
For sure.
And so
For sure.
um, that's kind of how I have to. That's kind of how I have to look at it day to day, and then really getting into a hopefully daily cycle of just taking the temperature and just saying, okay, where am I? How do I feel about where I am? It's not even hour to hour, day to day, that kind of stuff, but evaluating how am I doing this week? How am I doing this month? Am I on course or do I need to course correct at this point?
Okay.
Meditation, study business, study scriptures, that kind of stuff. That's all very centering. And so the more you're able to center and not feel scattered, not feel like, oh my gosh, I got to keep my business afloat. If you're able to turn that in internally and just say, how do I balance myself? Then everything else just seems less toxic. It seems less angry and less difficult to handle.
Yeah, that's a very mature concept, being focused as a business owner. That is something to be trained and mastered. That's a challenge in itself. Well, Dr. Erickson, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you to all of our listeners as well. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and we'll catch you next time on the thread.